Join us as we dive into the history, hauntings, and high strangeness of the world to try to better understand the paranormal. I will be your guide. I am paranormal researcher and investigator Eric Freeman Sims. Welcome to the Unseen Paranormal Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 175. Happy Home Day. Thank y'all for tuning in. We just surpassed 160,000 downloads thanks to you. Thank y'all so much. I never thought that I'd ever hit six figures, let alone, we're headed on up to 200,000 downloads. So that is all because of y'all, and thank you so much for tuning in, listening to the show, and following the show. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, please go leave a review wherever you can, Apple, Spotify, Google Business, Facebook. It helps other people find the show, and the show continue to grow. And I can't thank y'all enough for letting me do this right here as a job and for a living. And y'all are just amazing. I really appreciate it. So today, on this day after the U.S. presidential election, I just want to say, be nice to each other. Stop letting these people divide us and make us hate each other over differences. We'll always have differences, and everybody will always have their own opinion, but we don't have to hate each other over it. And just because somebody has a different opinion than you doesn't mean that they're less than you or anything else. Just treat each other with kindness and respect, and what you put out is what you get back. I'm just going to say I'm so glad this fucking election season's over. It feels like it's been going on for 3 years. Just glad all the ads and the signs and everything will go away. Anyway, I think a lot of y'all probably share that sentiment as well. Anyway, that's enough of the business there. And I'm going to jump right into the episode because the episode's an hour and a half long. So today we're talking to Mr. Al Cooley. Al is a fellow podcaster, paranormal podcaster. He has a great show. I listen to his show. We're fans of each other as far as the podcast goes. He listens to the show here. But he wrote a new book that is autobiographical about himself growing up in a haunted house from the ages of 12 to 16. It is called Spencer's Ghost, The Guardian. And it is his first in the book series, Ghost Valley. So he's got some more planned that will follow this book and kind of carry on from where this book leaves off. Yeah, just a great conversation. Like I said, sometimes when you get in a conversation that you're enjoying, it just keeps going. So that's why this episode's so long. And so y'all go grab a copy of his book, Spencer's Ghost, The Guardian. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, BarnesandNoble.com, and anywhere else fine books are sold. Also, he is trying to get his website up and going, authoralcooley.com. To get autographed copies up there where you can order them directly from him, and he will personalize it for you. But stay on the lookout for that, and just sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey, Al, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the new book, Spencer's Ghost, The Guardian, and you put Ghost Valley Book 1 because your podcast is Ghost in the Valley. And I've been a fan of your podcast forever. We've kind of known each other online for quite a while now on our podcast journeys.
Yeah, and yours was in my directory. That's one of my top 10. So
yeah.
That's one I listen to regularly. Yeah,
yeah, yours is on my list as well, my top list as well. When I get a chance to listen to podcasts, but yeah, busy life. But congratulations on the new book.
Thank you.
It is awesome. I love it, and I think it would be a great read for everybody. So even like kids could read this book, and not too young, not to scare them, but definitely young adults and anybody, on up until older age. It's just a great read.
The publishers want to target young adult, but I'll tell you what, I've had people 75 and older tell me they really enjoyed it, took them back,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's autobiographical.
It's written through my eyes. Oh, Lee Spencer is the main character in the book, and that's me. So it's through my eyes between the years of 12 years age and 16.
Wow, there's a lot packed between those years. Like I was telling you before we started recording, I thought I had a paranormal life with things starting out when I was young and just kind of snowballing. But man, and it all started when y'all moved into this new house.
Right, and I never had any experience like that. I never seen a ghost or a spirit or any of that, And can you imagine, the first day pulling up in the driveway and you see a girl up in the window,
Yeah.
I mean, and you're labeled crazy,
Yeah.
That's a thing back in 1967, man. It's like there was no internet, so who do you go to, who you talk to, because your parents think you're nuts, you know.
Right.
Because actually, you know, the 4 years we lived in this house, my parents never experienced anything, you know. So it was just my sister, myself, my brother, a few family members, and a couple of friends that actually. Uh, I mean, I was never, you know, physically attacked, you know, uh, or my sister, you know, but my two uncles were. My two uncles were physically attacked, you know. But even if they came to my parents and said, you know, the house is haunted, they were thinking I'm putting this shit in their head. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I'm the one feeding them this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like a no win situation. You know, so
Yeah. And that had to be tough, especially between 12 and 16, because you're changing anyway, and getting into becoming an adult and all that. That's hard enough by itself without, dealing with all of this crazy shit that you're going through in this house, and your parents won't even listen to you because they think you're lying.
Right. You know, I was on a podcast the other night. The one of the girls, she asked me, you know, why now? You know,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, because I couldn't do it then. You know, because who's going to believe you, and who's going? Because right now, I mean, paranormal is accepted, you know, a whole lot better than it was in 1967
Right.
or even 1990. And I mean, it's a different world right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how many podcasts you have out there, or face group uh, rooms that, you know, have the paranormal, or
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, tens of thousands of paranormal podcasts between the video casts online and with podcast apps and things. And yeah, I'm a member of probably 120 Facebook groups just for paranormal.
yeah,
And some of them have hundreds of thousands of people in them. So yeah. And back in the 60s and 70s, I mean, you start talking about seeing things that aren't there, they might put you in a straitjacket and take you to the asylum.
you know, that's right. You know, because I remember one night it was so bad, it was so active that, I mean, this is not in the book, you know, but I remember it was so bad that we were going to call the police, you know, and because my parents were gone that night, it was just my sister, my brother, and I, and it was so bad. I said, we got to call the cops, man. It's like it was just really fierce.
Yeah.
And then my sister says, before I called, you know, like, what are you going to tell them when they get here? You know,
Yeah.
because there's nobody here, but you have all this stuff going on. Uh, yeah, they're going to put you up in the straitjacket.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. You're going to be medicated drooling on yourself.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, this started, I mean, from the get go, not only the ghost girl, but the first day y'all were there, you were changing a light bulb in the basement and something stopped you from falling.
Yeah, that's all on day one, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, me seeing the girl in the window, me saying hello in my bedroom that was empty at the time. It was just a wooden floor, and the furniture's not there yet, you know. And I'm saying hello, and I get this echo back. Well, I think, you know, 12-year-old boy, I'm thinking that was pretty cool, man. I got this echo, so I said it louder, and then she answered back, hello. So I'm thinking it's my sister.
Yeah.
You know, they came up the stairs because she's about the same age as me, and I'm thinking same age as the girl. The girl I seen was about 10 years old, I'm going to guess. So I'm guessing it was her. You know, she wasn't upstairs. It was just me. And so I went back downstairs. And that's when my dad said, "How about going downstairs and changing that light bulb?" You know, and I'm thinking, okay, you know, I go downstairs. I'm thinking, I don't like it down here, you know, because it's dark and like a dungy basement. You know, it's musty smelling, and I'm up on this brick block I brought over, you know, and and I fall. I'm falling off this block backwards trying to put this light bulb in, and this hand grabs the back of my. I could feel a hand like on the back of my leg. I thought it was my dad, you know. And I looked down and said, "Hey, thanks." Well, he's my stepdad at the time. He was my mother's boyfriend, and then he ended up becoming my stepfather.
Yeah.
So he says, I said, thanks, Tommy. I mean, you know, thanks a lot. I looked down, there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You know, I just ran like hell up, get up them steps, you know, and what am I going to say? Hey, there's a ghost in the basement, you know. They already didn't believe me about the ghost in the window, so I just kept quiet, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was all on day one. And, you know, I had another question was asked me, well, did it follow you to the following houses? You know, no, it didn't. You know, this was like a one and done for me. in his house, you know. So I'm not one of these people that it just kept happening to, you know,
Yeah.
so because it didn't.
Yeah. How did you narrow down the stories? Because I know, I mean, like you said there, the story you just told a minute ago was what you didn't put in the book. So how did you narrow down the stories to kind of keep it flowing?
Well, there was a lot in there, so I had to between the editors and uh, you know, people reading the book. I'm thinking first of all, I had to drop like 35 f bombs. They said it was too many in the book because if you're targeting young adults,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, they say you can get around different ways, like you know the F word or you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay, you know, but I did leave one in there because I thought it was appropriate because, you know, the seven that's in the book, you know, she was a foul mouth. I mean, there was not a sentence she could say without cursing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm thinking I can't leave all her stuff out, you know, because that's
Yeah.
just who she was, you know. And I
Yeah.
said there's some certain things I have to leave in. So and being based on a true story, you know, I in a sense it was like 57 years ago this happened. I started writing this like 5 years ago, so I'm like adding each time I do it. I switch a couple chapters around. I dropped a couple chapters out, uh, only because they said when I say they, it's the editors. I thought that it was didn't flow right, you know.
Yeah.
And they're probably right, you know. Maybe it wasn't ghostly enough, you know. So I always tell people, you know, if you're looking for blood and guts and somebody putting their hands through somebody's chest and ripping out the heart, well, this book ain't for you, you know. But if you want to talk about like
Right.
a true story, like what happened to me, then yeah, you know, and it was just outside the house. It wasn't just in the house; it was outside the house as well. So I mean, different
Right.
events that happened that was just crazy, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Other people being affected. And it kind of ran the whole gamut of I would say between intelligent and residual, because there was a time when you and your sister heard somebody come through the door, run through the house, run back out the door.
Right. That was a friend of mine that came over. Actually, he was spending the
Oh yeah,
night,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and that's another thing, man. He never came back. So you know, we were always friends.
yeah,
Even to this day, we're friends. But he never came back to that house. Uh, he was just he didn't like the house to begin with, and I assured him that there was no activity during that time because it has basically it had slowed down that time before he spent the night. I thought, okay, you know, it's pretty cool now. And when we were sitting there on the couch, imagine your couch is like in the middle of the living room. So the behind the
yeah,
couch, it was facing the back door. So we could hear the screen doors squeaking open. We both turned around. There was nobody back there. Okay, you know, maybe it was a wind. You know, the wind blew the door open. Then we heard like the footsteps, you know, coming through the kitchen. Then like a really, I don't know if you ever felt this, like a cold breeze coming through you. So it was just like a
yeah,
breeze, like a
yeah,
cold, ice cold breeze. It was a hot summer night too. So we didn't have air conditioning. So the breeze just came right through our bodies. The footsteps went back to the kitchen door shut, slammed shut. He immediately got up and called his mother, says, "You need to come pick me up, ma'am, and I'm out of here." What turned out his mother worked with my mother. And so my mom
yeah,
now she's double mad at me because I'm feeding him these stories about this ghost girl or this ghost in the house. And plus his mother tells her friends at work that we should have our house blessed or something, you know. Uh, so she's mad at me now. Her friends think she's crazy because of me, you know. So it's like it's
yeah,
always my fault, you know. But I understand it now because I'm looking back on it. You know, it's like I said before, it's in life. You know, if you don't experience something, then you really don't know. I mean, you hear about it like cancer or Alzheimer's, or but you know, have that in your family or you yourself, you really don't know. You know, so I can
right,
understand this stuff never happened to her. So,
yeah,
but I was hoping even before she passed away, I said, "Come on, just one time, mom, just." You didn't see what was
right,
happening. Man. It's like either you're blind or you're turning a blind eye, you know.
yeah. And it seems like it's weird how cases are like that, because I've been an investigator for a long, long time, and yeah, it just affects certain people. Certain people see stuff, and it's always amazed me that you can have 5 or 6 people in the same room, and
Hmm.
you can hear a voice, but everybody experiences it a little differently. or you can have something manifest right in front of you. And I've had this happen with a group of people, but everybody sees it differently. Somebody will see it as a shadow figure. Somebody will see a full body apparition. Some people see a mist and different things. And I find that interesting. And then some people won't see anything at all.
Or that spirit will connect with somebody that you didn't think they were going to connect with. You know, so like say you have a medium or whatever is on your team, and this like I was in one night where investigation where the spirit didn't. There was like two paranormal groups in this house in the mansion, and it didn't go to any of the group. It went to the tour guide that was taking the tour on the house. You know what I'm saying? And she was Hispanic.
Yeah.
So evidently the spirit was just speaking Spanish. So
yeah,
I thought that was strange, you know, but that, and she didn't have any equipment. She was just getting this like what you call that?
Yeah, like telekinesis or like a,
yeah.
Using that premise that they will talk to some people. Whenever I do public ghost hunts or I lead a group of like novice investigators, we always do something called a roundtable EVP session. And so everybody will ask the same question in a clockwise manner. And we always give 15 or 20 seconds in between to give them time to answer. And inevitably, they will answer one or two people in the group every time. And I don't know, I think some of it too, with some of the historic locations, it may be because if it's a man asking the question, you know, back 1800s, early 1900s, you know, women didn't, they more so talked with women. Strange men they wouldn't have anything to do with because of the culture and things. And also if you're in the woman's bedroom, back then she would have not had a man in her bedroom at all. It would have been her husband, and only to procreate. That was the only time they slept in the same room. And so, or even like little kid spirits, they might feel more comfortable talking to a female than a male. And so we always do that because we get good results. And we'll usually have that person. So if it's just one person in the group that they seem to respond to, well, the rest of the night we'll have them predominantly asking questions and trying to get interactions because, okay, well, if that spirit can only hear them or is only reacting to them or whatever the reason is why they're on that person. Okay, well, how about you ask them to set the REM pod off? You know, if it goes off, then if I ask and it doesn't happen, all right, we may be seeing some correlation, or, you know, if an EMF meter or something, if they're asking for it to answer questions. But I just find that interesting that it's like that. And I've heard many different theories. One of them was that we're all on different, you know, level of vibration, planes of vibration, which makes sense to me because our entire universe and existence is different levels of vibration. I mean, you know, the light spectrum, sound spectrum, microwaves, everything is a wave and it's a vibration. So, but yeah, I just found it interesting that
would you say vibrations? Would you say like energy?
Yeah, it's all energy and it's all on a wave.
Yeah, like years ago, we were at I was traveling with my family. We came across an Indian, like a little Indian town where we were selling artifacts, and it was like a deli, but everything was American Indian. So, so I'm thinking there's this old man on the front porch, and he's like doing his coffee cup, you know, dripping his coffee back in that cup. And I asked him, what are you doing? He said, I'm getting the evil spirits out of the coffee. You know, it says everything that's living on this planet has a spirit. You know, and so his thinking was, well, you know, I'm just maybe 10 years old, and I remember him telling me that whether it be a plant or tree or human, animal, they all have spirit, you know. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, you know, so his thinking is, it's if a place is haunted. I don't know how we got on this conversation. I'm just a little kid. My family's inside this store, and I had this really great connection with this old man, and he was just saying that everything, it comes from ground up. So all this activity and spirits were coming from ground up. So my thinking was the building actually haunted, or was those spirits in the house been there in the ground? You know, because I was talking to a member of our city hall, because I'm doing some research on this house. I want to get all the research I can, you know. And he was telling me, the person on the city hall, that the area that I lived in, that whole area was highly saturated with spirit activity, because a lot of these homes were built on burial grounds. So,
Yeah.
and in that book I wrote, I had mentioned certain things of the town. It happened in Warren, Ohio. So I'm doing a book signing last weekend at the Ghost Walk, and I'm sitting at the church. I'm looking at the log cabin that's in the book. I'm looking at the courthouse
Yeah.
that's in the book. This brought back a lot of memories. And I'm thinking, wow, uh, and I think that's why my book did so well there, sold out, because uh, the people knew an author from the town I wrote the story about, and I know
Right.
the area. They know the area, so there's a lot of activity. Even at the church we had the ghost walk started out at. That church alone has a tunnel that goes under that church, under the main road to the river. So that was
Wow.
for the Underground Railroad back in the early 1800s. So
Yeah.
that was a very active area. A lot of death in that area. Uh, so it was interesting, and meeting the people that came up to talk to me. I'm thinking, naturally, a couple of people give that side eye, like, okay, whatever, But
Right.
there was more than
Right.
that came to me and told me their story, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. And one of the things I love about books like yours as well is not only are they true stories and they're fascinating because you get to hear one person's account, throughout the years of things happen to them, but also, like you said, this
Mm-hmm.
happened in Warren, Ohio. Otherwise, who's heard about hauntings in Warren, Ohio?
Right.
I mean, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like nobody. And so people that live there who experience the same things, maybe in their house that you did or when they're growing up or whatever, they can relate because they're like, oh my God, somebody else
Mm-hmm.
actually had
Right.
this happen to them too.
I was just going to say, because you probably know as well as I do of all the guests you had on your show. It doesn't matter if you're from Australia or England or Italy or
Yeah.
U.S.
Yeah.
The little backwoods towns in Tennessee. I mean, everybody has almost the same ghost story. So it doesn't matter where you live,
Yeah.
what language you
Yeah.
speak, or whatever. You have a story, and I had one guest on, and she's telling me her story. I was like, oh my God, you're going to think I stole your story for my book, because what happened to you happened to me. And and I thought that was so strange, Uh, I said, honestly, I can send you my script and tell you that what I have down here is what I went through, So,
Right.
it was a lot for a 12-year-old boy, I think,
And I think also, since it happened during that time of your life, I think it is a good thing to market it towards young adults because some of them might be going
Mhm,
through it now, especially
mhm,
kids with abilities. Because I know I grew up as an empath and I've heard you talk about being an empath
mhm.
as well. And I think part of the reason why we experience those things as kids, I think is when that ability is starting to ramp up. And like you said, it only happened in those years, but maybe when you moved out of there, you were kind of settled in those abilities, so it wasn't as crazy. You weren't attracting. I like to liken it to us being a lighthouse in the dark.
Right, you don't know, it's like, I don't go out and say, "Okay, come to me," 'cause it doesn't work,
Right,
but,
right, yeah,
I can say that, like, I mean, a couple times since then, and I say that, I'm not a psychic, I'm not a medium, but
right,
I can you probably can contest it, you can go somewhere and you don't need your equipment, for a fact that there's something there,
yeah,
and that's not just like my stepdad said, it was a tree pounding against the wall, it's a car going down the street, that's a light you seen across the wall. Sometimes, yeah, that's right, that's true,
yeah,
but but when you know it's not, I
right,
mean, it's hard to like last year I went on and, I actually went to the gentleman's house because he wanted to be on my show, but he didn't want to do the Zoom thing or anything. He wanted me to come to his house because his house was extremely haunted.
yeah,
I said, okay, I traveled like 60 miles, went down to his house, and I tell you what, that house was, I got out of there, man. I'll tell you what, I would say it was probably worse than the house I grew up in, because
wow,
it was like he called it a fun house,
yeah,
because the steps all kind of angled going up the stairs, like they weren't flat, they were just angled up.
yeah,
So it made it tough going up the steps and coming down because you're going to fall on your ass.
right,
But the steps were angled up. The one side of the wall was angled down, the other side was angled up. It did look like a fun house. But what he was telling me was they moved the house there with a team of horses on a bunch of logs. And back in the late 1700s, early 1800s, I'm thinking it was built on Indian burial grounds because when he dug his field out for the garden, he unearthed some Indian artifacts
Yeah.
and some bones. So I'm thinking that could be, uh, with the spirits. Anytime you put a house on top of a body that,
Yeah.
you shouldn't.
Yeah. You're also digging and disturbing things you shouldn't be disturbing.
Right. And like I said before, I'd never call anybody that comes on my show crazy.
Yeah.
I'm asking them to share their story because I'd never seen a UFO. I'd never seen Bigfoot. But, these people that have, I'm not going to say they haven't when they could tell me, well, you never had that experience in your
Right.
house.
Right.
Just like the kid in my book, Alex, he's one of my best friends, and I'm like, why don't you? And we were playing in the band together. Why don't you come over to my house and we rehearse at my house? Well, I can't do that. I knew it wasn't because he knew the house was haunted. Well, it turned out he didn't because he didn't want to share his story where he was having connections with UFOs,
Yeah.
mental telepathy, and what he's seen, what his brother's seen, his cousin's seen. So I can't call him crazy. I can't say that didn't happen, because a lot of things he told me back then, when I have these guests come on my show to this day, they tell me what he told me 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's happening, so, I mean, who am I to say your story's not true? And that's
Right.
one thing. I don't really care for what people think of me. I would like to have, somebody explain to me, why this happened
Yeah.
or why certain events happen that just they shouldn't have happened, so
Yeah.
and that's what I was looking for back basically as a 12-year-old kid. That's why I had a connection with my one teacher, even though everybody thought she was nuts in school because she seen little green men and we all thought she was out there. And then my one friend says, how can you call her crazy when she basically almost has the same story you have?
Right.
I mean, really? I mean, if
Yeah.
she sees people that you don't see, you see people that people can't see.
Yeah.
So, and she's the one who actually I came in contact with that basically said my house had more than one spirit. So, it's all on who you come across and what's led in your path on the way,
Yeah. My favorite stories to hear are from the people that, especially when I do conventions and things like that and meet and greets and things like that. They'll come up to you and they'll say, I don't believe in ghosts, but here's my ghost story. Because they don't want to, they want to preface it with that so you don't think they're crazy. And I just wanted to tell them, and I don't, because I want to hear their story and I don't want to make them nervous, but I want to tell them, I wasn't there. I don't know. I don't want you to discredit anything. Like you're saying, I don't want you to discredit my stories and say, well, you're not an empath, when I know what I've been through. And so, but I love that because people, for so long, people would have been looked at like they're crazy. And like we were talking about earlier, it's a lot more accepted now. But I get a lot of people, even with Bigfoot stories, they'll come up and want to tell me Bigfoot stories and be like, I don't really believe in Bigfoot, but this is what I saw. And I'm like, well, I think you saw a Bigfoot, so you probably should believe in Bigfoot now.
That's like a friend of mine, he goes hunting, he goes up in Alaska and they drop him off in this wilderness and they go in with what they call the airplane that goes on water, to land on the water. And they drops them off and in the wilderness, they pick them up 2 weeks later. Well, you're on your way. You're on your own, dude. I mean, you got to hunt your own food. You got to do all the, you're really living a life as a off the grid.
Yeah.
So, and he never believed in this stuff, man. He never believed in anything paranormal. I'll tell you, when he came back and was telling me, I got to tell you something. I don't want you to put this on your podcast. I just want to share it between you and me. Like, I'm not going to say his name, so he won't care. But it was like, he said he's seen baby Bigfoot. So it's like, and I started laughing. He said, no, hear me out, man. We couldn't all sleep in. There was like 7 or 8 of them. They couldn't all sleep in the cabin, so some had to sleep outside in the tent. So whoever draw the short stick, I guess. Right. So he said they heard some stuff. They heard some, like they seen a big light first in the middle of the woods, like a huge light. And I was like, what the hell is that? Because you're out in the wilderness.
Yeah.
There's no light. So they went and checked. They couldn't see nothing. They came back with the tent, and then they heard some ruffling of branches and stuff. And then his tent opened up, and it was like a little, like he said, if you ever seen like these images like a big Bigfoot, it was like a little kid, but he was like a Bigfoot.
Wow.
And then he heard, and when the mother came out of the woods, I'm guessing this was a bigger one, came out of the woods, and the other one started shooting at him from the cabin. So he says, I don't know if we hit any of them, but they just ran off. So when we went back, the light kind of faded. So I don't know. And I heard this one guest come on my show a couple years ago. He asked me a question if I thought Bigfoot and UFOs were connected. I didn't know how to answer that because I never was hit with that before.
Yeah.
So I said, I don't know, but it sounds it's interesting because usually when there's abundance of Bigfoots or UFOs, they're kind of together.
Yeah.
Or around the water or near water. So that's one theory I had, and then so he was saying, I'm just telling you, man, what I seen was not a kid dressed up in a costume. It was actually like a half human, half ape type of thing that was trying. This just opened up our tent opening, and I don't know if he touched this other guy's foot or how that happened. I thought, well, woke him up, and that he's jumped up, and that little one ran out as soon as the big one came out. And he said, I just want to share that with you,
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you answer that? I'm thinking, okay, and this is a person who would never, and to this day, he doesn't believe in, but he knows what happened that night.
You're right. Right. Yeah. And I've been asked that Bigfoot question too. If I think they're a real creature or there's something, extraterrestrial or interdimensional. And I go back to some of the Native American legends. The Cherokee legend about Bigfoot is that they walked in two worlds. So they believed they were physical beings, but they could also go to the spirit realm. So like another dimension. And that was kind of, and that would kind of, to me, kind of sums it up, the way that Bigfoot can just disappear. People follow tracks for so long and they just poof, they're gone, things like that. Also, I think one of the theories I've come up with talking to different Bigfoot researchers and stuff and talking about time slips and all the other paranormal is why couldn't it be a time slip that we're seeing? Not just Bigfoot, but also ghost, sometimes seeing ghosts and things. Why couldn't that be a time slip? We don't go poke a bear in the ass in the woods to make sure it's real, but it could be a time slip. So,
right. Well, sometimes you get your 411 cases. I heard that one guest yet on. You have him on quite a few times. I can't think of his name.
Steve Stockton.
Yes, I love that
Missing
guy.
411. Yeah.
I do, man. He has some really great stories.
Yeah.
And actually, that's what turned me on to 411 because I heard your show, and I did some research on these 411 cases. I'm thinking, I mean, what happened? I mean, who's to say that's not interdimensional? What do you call that? Terrestrial being. I mean, because these people, like the one kid, I don't know if it was on your show or I listened to another one. The kid was like 3 miles away in a matter of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And there's no way he could have made it that far.
Yeah.
So how did he get from point A to point B that quick?
Yeah.
And he was, that fascinates me. I don't know how those 411 cases are connected with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Or is it something else? Is it an extraterrestrial being?
Yeah. There are a few that have Bigfoot in them.
Are they the same?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. One that comes to mind happened here in East Tennessee back in the 50s or 60s. The Dennis Martin case is a famous missing person case. Dennis Martin was 3 or 4 years old, and he's playing hide and seek with his brothers and friends at this campsite in the mountains. And his dad saw him, and he kind of hid behind a bush, and then he's never seen again. But at the same time, there was a family on down the mountain that was looking for wildlife. And so they had binoculars and they're looking, through this tree clearing on top of the mountain, down this valley and stuff. And they saw what they described as like a hairy looking man with what looked like a kid over his shoulder walking up the mountain. And that correlation that they told that to the FBI and to the people, but nobody ever put it 2 and 2 together until many years later that was that Bigfoot that kidnapped Dennis Martin, because that's what they described, was that it was, what looked like a Bigfoot creature with a person over its shoulder. So, and that kid was never found. No trace of him was ever found to this day,
Yeah, that's what I like about my podcast. I'm sure you do yourself. You learn things on there from maybe something you didn't know before. So I'm constantly learning on here. Yeah, I had a guest on had they called Bigfoot wood boogers.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I had never heard of a wood booger, and I'm like, okay, man, I never heard that.
That's an Appalachian thing. That's where you get
It is, it is, it is. Yeah,
that's where
yeah.
we get Boogie Monster from.
The boogie, yeah, boogie
Yeah.
boogie man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shortening of wood boogers. It's the boogeyman. And that was the wood boogers are gonna come get you if you don't behave, in East Tennessee. But not just East Tennessee, but the Appalachian Mountains in North Carolina, South Carolina, and down into Georgia. But a lot of the stories come from there. A lot of the folklore surrounding things like that. It's interesting to look into. Like I said, boogeyman comes from wood booger, but the vernacular even changes. With we have the Tennessee wild men at one time that I've even found newspaper articles about, and it's a Bigfoot type creature, but more man than beast. Look more man-like, and but yeah, all these different legends and stories, but the thing I found fascinating was they put in the newspaper back in like the 1840s, 1850s, they were serious about this, like keep your kids and your women and your animals, inside at night, or the Tennessee wild man's going to come snatch them up.
Yeah, it's kind of like the people that paint their houses with the paint blue.
Yeah.
If someone paint their whole house with it,
Yeah.
I've seen it, and because my family, almost all the Cooleys in my family live in Alabama. So, and I just know from traveling from Ohio to Alabama through Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, there's a lot of blue houses. I mean,
yeah,
blue shutters, blue porches, and I know why it's there, And it was in my book, with a haint blue tea from my grandmother, it has a haint blue.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that.
I first heard that.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is that,
Right. Yeah. The 200-year-old house that we just bought, there was an old back door that used to be, I'm guessing used to be a small covered porch, and it was probably a servant entrance at one time, but it had been boarded up. So we ended up taking the door and the transom window out. But the whole inside of that was painted haint blue. And that's why I'm pretty sure it was an outside porch at one time, because they wouldn't have painted the inside haint blue. It would have been an outside porch. And that would have been with the spiritualist movement, but also enslaved people.
Did you know the house was haunted when you bought it? Is that why you bought it?
Yeah, we were pretty sure when we went through it that it was active, very active. And we also talked to the neighbors, and they were talking about the previous owners having experiences. But then when we asked the previous owner, the owner we bought it from, he wouldn't tell us anything. His wife wasn't at the closing because they live in California now. But he told us with a poker face that I didn't believe that he had never had any experiences, which everybody that's been in the house has had experiences in the past 6 months. So even my mother and father-in-law, who don't do anything with paranormal, working on the house, they've had experiences. But the neighbor said that his wife would come over and tell them all the time because she worked from home, and they owned the house for 8 years. And so
is your house still haunted?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you're okay with what's in there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We've had teams. Okay. the night house, as it's called, that we bought it's over 200 years old, and it has a rich history, and it's always been a residence. So people have always lived and died there. It's never been abandoned. And all the energy of people living there and dying there. And it's good and it's welcoming. I mean, even my house right here that I live in outside of Nashville is haunted, but I think that's more so because I'm haunted, with the whole empath thing.
It's like I asked that guy last year. I was in his house. I said, "Well, why don't you have somebody move these spirits on?"
Yeah.
And he said he didn't want to.
Yeah.
He was adamant about that. Because he didn't feel it was right. They were here before me, and who am I to say this isn't your house?
Right.
So I said, okay, So he's learning how to live with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the night house is, I think there's a couple of resident spirits that are intelligent. There's definitely a lot of residual as well, sounds of furniture moving, things like that. But there's definitely some intelligent there. And I look at it like, who am I to upset the balance? Like, I don't know why they're still here. And it may be their choice, may not. It may be the process they have to go through to move on. They have to go through a certain death process or to admit to themselves they're dead or something before they move on. So I'm not going to go in with anybody and say, hey, move these spirits on, because I don't know what none of us know what the deal is over there. So maybe I'm fucking up karma or something. I don't know. So
when we were moving out of that house, let's say you brought that up about, you thought the previous owner had to know, right?
Yeah.
The landlord of this house, when we moved out, I can still remember to this day because I was so happy. Man, this dude got my. He agrees with me, because he asked my mother. First he said, yeah, he thanked her for staying there for as long as we did because we had great tenants and blah blah blah. And she said, well, the kids are happy to move because they claim the house is haunted. And she's laughing about I'm getting a little pissed off because she's making fun of me right in front of this guy, and he's like, oh man, but the house is haunted. I'm surprised you stayed here as long as you did.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sweet, Yeah. And she's after driving away, my mom says like, man, that dude is weird. I'm thinking, you still don't believe him, and he owns the home.
Yeah.
And so, but my thinking is, I don't know how it was like this back then, but I thought they had to tell you if the house is haunted or not if you're moving in. If they know it is, they're supposed to disclose that.
I think there are certain states. I think there's I want to say 20-something states that have that as a regulation for realtors. And if you're leasing a property, but it's not, I don't think it's everywhere. In Tennessee, I don't think you don't have to do that in Tennessee. I know. But yeah, occasionally you'll see those posts on Facebook of a for sale sign that says not haunted on top of it, so, but yeah, there are some states.
Yeah, I seen that on, I think it was HGTV or one of those shows. I don't know if you've seen The House Was Haunted, and they had that crow across the street was Leonard, and all these signs were showing the stuff happening. They were making little jokes along the way and during the show, and they said, I wonder if this house was haunted, and because, well, nobody said nothing to me,
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and there's certain states like where they have to tell you if there's a murder in the house or suicide, anything like that too. Like they have to disclose all of that, like anything weird about the house or history. But Tennessee, no, they just sell you a house, they don't have to tell you anything. And even Kentucky, because the night house is in Kentucky, and we were just lucky that when we asked the question, he somewhat answered it, to us, that his wife had lots of experiences, but he never had any experiences, but I've also had people on Facebook message me too and say, hey, have you heard the piano play by itself yet? Have you heard the ghost parrot? Well, now I have, because I've caught it on camera, there's a camera sitting right on top of the piano, and I've heard the piano play, sitting off the camera, and a ghost parrot as well, because one of the families had a macaw parrot for 50, 60 years. But so it's interesting to get people message me now, to where I guess the people that owned it before wasn't very receptive to it.
Mm-hmm. But, you're married, right?
Yeah.
So what do they think about what on the paranormal? Right?
Yeah. Roger, he could not care less. He couldn't care less. He really couldn't.
I was gonna say because either he's with you or he's doesn't believe. Like my wife, she's a non-believer. I wouldn't say she's a non-believer. She just doesn't like the paranormal.
Yeah.
So if I go somewhere, she knows it's going to be one of these trips. She won't go. Well, she's coming with me to this Paracon I'm doing Saturday, so I'm surprised. So I says, okay, cool. I mean, you're going to protect me, right? I said, yeah, sure.
No, he doesn't care about it at all. He doesn't mind that I do it. When we first got it, we've been together almost 20 years, and he didn't believe any of it at first. And so I was kind of, the first couple of years, I didn't really tell him about the empath thing until we were going to go on a trip, and I told him I got a bad feeling about this. We're going to go to Chattanooga for a weekend. And I said, I got a bad feeling about this. We don't need to go. Something's going to happen. He would not listen to me. He's like, you're just having anxiety or whatever. It's raining. It's storming. We'll be fine. No, we ended up having a major wreck, and luckily neither one of us were hurt, but the truck flipped upside down and all this shit on the interstate. And after that, he was like, I'm going to start listening to you, and so it's kind of snowballed from there with the empath shit, and then with me investigating for so many years, because I started investigating when I was a teenager, so long before me and him got together. And so he's just, and then with our house being haunted, he's seen and heard stuff here, and, he was on board to buy the night house to make it not only a business, but the house has always been a residence, so we wanted to share the history as well as the hauntings, because it's the oldest house in that county still standing, and in that city of Hopkinsville. So he was on board with that, but he's had plenty of experiences at the night house too in the past 6 months. And like I said, his parents have had experience and stuff too, but he's not on board with seeking it out. He does not want to. He's not there when anybody investigates. I'm the only one there. I spend the night there with him and stuff. But he's experienced it and become a believer.
That maybe did he see or hear anything while you weren't home? And he explained his what he experienced.
Yeah, occasionally if I'm not here at our house, he'll tell me, "Oh, this happened so and so." Or if he gets up, because I work from home with the podcast and the other the night house and stuff, so he gets up before me and goes to work early, and he'd be like, "Yeah, I saw that damn shadow figure behind me in the mirror in the bathroom this morning," or something, or I heard him knocking, And then even at the night house, he's experienced stuff by himself when he's been in the house by himself. He didn't know he's in the house by himself when he heard knocks. He shut a door. He's locking up, and he shut the door between the dining room and kitchen, and he heard 3 knocks on it, and he thought he locked one of us in there. And he opens the door, and we're not in there, and he sees me, my brother, and my brother's girlfriend out on the front lawn. Or on the side lawn, and nobody's in the house. And so, he hurriedly locked up and came outside. But yeah, he kind of doesn't have a choice. Like, I've just drug him into this paranormal life. He did grow up in a 200-year-old farmhouse, but nothing intelligent, I don't think. They always heard footsteps up and down the steps and doors open and closing, but it sounds like it was always residual stuff.
Yeah, I mean, since we moved out of the house, I didn't have any other experiences in other houses we lived in. Except the one we're living in now. And it's just something small, like, maybe 3 years ago, we know that the lady that we bought this house off of, she died in this house. But that didn't bother me, But she was a heavy smoker, so they say she smoked 4 to 5 packs a day. And so did her husband. So my wife and I, we don't smoke, but I know, I grew up with it. So it's like, the difference between cigarette smoke and somebody blowing smoke in your face.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it was like, I'm sitting in the dining room, and I just smelled the whole puff like in my face.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow, it happened. It just kept happening, and I told my wife, I said, maybe you're doing too many paranormal shows, And, well, then about a year ago, she's sitting there and she smelled it. And her name was Greta. So my wife says, "Okay, Greta, take it outside." And he just quit.
Yeah.
But people have said they smell, it could be a perfume,
right,
or a cigar smoke or whatever, you can still smell that smell. I just wonder if you ever smelled that, like a perfume or something doing an investigation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Even in my own house, both of my parents have passed away, and my mom wore Jovan Musk. And my parents were my grandparents. They adopted me when I was like 2 months old. And so when I say they were older, and so she wore Jovan Musk, which is kind of now like an old lady perfume. It's not, nothing like the perfumes that women wear now. But occasionally, and I inherited their house, but the whole house has been gutted with like new drywall and everything. So there's nothing for the perfume smell to have stuck in the house. You know what I'm saying? And so, but occasionally I'll be walking through my house and I'll just get a whiff of it, and I'll turn back around and try to smell it again, but no. And it'll be a strong whiff too, like enough to catch my attention when my mind's not even, in the middle of the day, my mind's not even on anything like that. But I just take it as her saying hi.
Yeah.
And other investigations, I've smelled cigar smoke and things like that too, just out of nowhere, especially in some older houses where, you're in the men's parlor or whatever, where they made deals and they smoke cigars, in there. And occasionally you'll get a whiff of something like that. The night house, we actually, the other day, I was taking another paranormal author and investigator, Steve Asher, through, and he walked over towards one of the windows and caught a smell of perfume. And I didn't really smell it. His girlfriend smelled it. He smelled it real quick. But then 2 days later, I'm up there turning the lights on and things in the parlor, and I smelled it where he did for a brief second. But there's nothing up there, with the perfume smell. So that was interesting. That he smelled that, and that's the first time that's happened in the house. But for me to smell it and then validate, his experience was kind of cool. But yeah, the phantom smells are interesting. But yeah, when it happens here at my house, I just think it's my mom saying hi, checking in on me. And, so getting back to the book.
Yeah. I will say this one thing about that one story. I didn't really touch on too many. People that have me on their shows. Yeah. I was thinking about this, the other day, because I did that book signing last weekend.
Yeah.
I have a story in there where, because my grandmother said they come in threes. That always bothered me.
Yeah.
Like somebody you know or love is going to die within a week or so
Yeah. Yeah.
close to you, that they come in, and they did, you know. Well, I had two. I thought one, my friend in high school, he was my lab partner, and he was joking and laughing that day in school. You know, I never thought he would have any type of problem. Christian knows somebody, you know,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
said, "How about he'll come at so and so's house tonight? We're having a party over the pizza and beer." And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, you know." And what 16-year-old wouldn't, you know?
Right.
So I said, "Well, maybe I might hook up. You know, we'll see what's going on." And we were sitting at McDonald's that night, and we seen all these paramedics come running in McDonald's, and they were so upset. The one she even threw up in the middle of McDonald's,
Wow.
and like she never seen anything like this before. You know, where he actually laid across the railroad tracks right behind the McDonald's where we were sitting,
Wow.
and the train ran over him. Well,
Yeah.
uh, he just, and I'm like, I put that in a book because he was one of the three, and I never put his name in there because I didn't want to. I didn't want to even give him a fictitious thing because I just thought I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I put him in there, but I didn't give him a name. Well, this past weekend, I'm doing that book signing, and a lady walks up to me and she buys one of my books, and she says, "The kid that laid across those railroad tracks, I'm very glad you didn't put his name in that book." And I said, "Oh, so you've already read this book?" She said, "I got the ebook. I want the print." I said, "Okay, you know, cool, thank you, you know."
Yeah.
And she says, I can't remember because she had her head down, she's talking to me kind of muffled, and I don't know if she was related to him or she knew somebody that was related to him, and so that was very personal to her.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm glad you put him in there because it brought back so many memories.
Right.
But and that even took them by surprise because he didn't have any suicidal tendencies. You know,
Right.
you wouldn't think if he tried this before or he was just depressed or whatever. He was none of that.
Yeah.
I mean, even to know him in school, he was always the one that was the one, you know, like the leader, you know.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought that. So that kind of struck me too, that you never know what story in that book will affect somebody the most.
Yeah.
That actually went through something like that.
Right. Right. Whether they knew that guy specifically or not, or they went through a similar experience.
And I woke up like in the middle of the night one night, you know, I'm thinking about this, and you know, and I just woke up like a dead sweat, you know, and I had this, I guess it was a dream, you know, and it was like, and he was standing like in front of me, like saying, you know, thank you.
Yeah.
But I woke up in the middle of the night with just, what's wrong with you? I was just dreaming about a chapter in a book, you know. So,
Yeah.
you know, but so you know, that was I really loved them 4 weekends or 4 nights I was there because I met so many interesting people. So I've had other authors come on the show and they would tell me, you know, don't go out and do book signings. Don't go do this. You know, you're going to sit there for hours. You're not going to sell nothing and go home depressed. And I said, you know, I just like to talk to people, meet people.
Yeah.
If they don't buy the books, that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't expecting to go there to sell my books. I was, you know, have a good time and sell a few copies, fine, you know. And so he was telling me, well, just go ahead, go online. Just put them on Amazon. Well, if you just sit back and expect your books are going to sell, that's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean,
right.
you got to go out and do some type of footwork or some type of advertising.
Yeah.
You know, I was going to ask you this question. I get your input on this. In the book, when we jumped the train and we went, we ended up, we were going to go to Kent State, protest the shootings there. That's only like maybe 25 miles from my house. We ended up going, instead of going west, we went east. And the train, because it was at the time we had train that went in Warren, boxcar and passenger train. But we were on a boxcar and we went west, thinking, well, the kid we're with, he knows the train yard. He had paperwork to where we're going. Well, we ended up in New York. It was Kent, New York, not Kent, Ohio. So, well, long story short, we come across this man in New York. He called himself Boxcar Billy Baxter. I still remember that. And when finally the rest of the people in that train yard came and took us back to basically interrogate us, because what's 3 teenagers doing
Yeah.
in our train yard? You know, because they had a rash of burglaries and all kind of stuff happened back then, and thinking we were those burglars. So now we just three stupid kids that got jumped the train and ended up in New York. Well, this guy, we went back to the depot, and the guys started getting mad at us because we keep talking about Billy Baxter. You know, and he said, enough of this, just enough of it. You all know that Billy Baxter died 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I said, maybe it's not the same guy we're talking about, right? Well, then the secretary was working that shift that night. She comes out holding a like a 8x11 picture of Billy Baxter that she had down on the wall because he died in an explosion in his train yard like in 1930. Well, no, this is what I seen. The man we seen as Billy Baxter looked just like that picture, but he was just older. So he wasn't that 30-year-old. He was that 60-year-old. Now, my only two things I could come up with is it's Billy Baxter that was still hanging around there that was never caught, or he was the ghost of Billy Baxter. Well, she claims that they found his boot when he was died in an explosion there in 1930. He worked there, and they put his picture on the wall. His picture in all these years, so he was known as Boxcar Billy Baxter.
Yeah,
and that's how he introduced himself to us. He looked just like that picture. So my thing was, I never seen where a ghost can age. You know, well, I had a guest on the other night when she was saying that yes, you know, they can change yourself into another something else. You don't have to be that same person.
Yeah, kind of like a shapeshifter.
Yeah, that was the word I'm looking for. Shapeshifter. Yeah. So was he that? Was he a shapeshifter, or was he just somebody else? But he looked just like Billy Baxter, and we just call him that. And that was interesting, you know.
Yeah, I think in my experience, I think there are some spirits with something like that. Maybe he was put there as kind of a guardian for y'all to keep you out of trouble.
And he definitely did.
Yeah. Yeah. And also maybe he made himself look older so that to disarm y'all. So you weren't scared of him. Because if he was a 30-year-old, you know, y'all might have been worried about him robbing you or hurting you or something. But an old man, you know what I'm saying? A little less
because he took us back to the depot, and it's like, you know, he was taking care of us. He actually felt sorry for us because he found out you guys jumped the wrong freaking train. You end up here, and so you're gonna get your ass kicked when your dad's gonna pick you up to take you home because it's a 6-hour ride back to Ohio. Yeah, and I'm like, it was just something that I never forgot, you know, and so I added that story into the book. I was gonna take it out, and my wife said, "No, it's a good story, you know. It's I mean, we did so much that you guys jumped a train, right. And you went 6 miles on this box. And back then, you know, trains didn't go 35 mile an hour through this towns. They went 60, 70 mile an hour.
Yeah.
So we're on this train, and it was like rocking and rolling, you know, across PA and through the mountains, and it was and then and he stayed with us all the way up until the authorities came, right?
Yeah.
And we turned around, you're going to stick with us. We even asked him, you're going to stick with us, right? I mean, and tell him that we got here accidentally, you know, and he never answered us. So we turned back around and looked at him. He was gone. So where did he go? You know, it wasn't just me. It was me and my two buddies. We all three seen him.
Yeah. So
we were all there. And unfortunately, the other two guys that was on the train with me are no longer here. But that was something, you know, I like some of these stories. They would come to me, or my sister would call me and say, "Did you put this in your book? Because this is what happened. You remember this one?" Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, and she's a preacher. She was a retired Methodist preacher. You know, I said, "Why don't you talk about this stuff in church?" You know. So I got my bosses too. You know, I got to answer too. You know,
right. Right.
I guess they still can't talk about that. Yeah, like the Catholic Church, you know, is a purgatory. Yeah. So would that be the time that the spirit is still here?
Right.
I mean, you don't know. I mean, I don't know if we would know, but
yeah. And to me, like with all of the mythology and angels and demon stuff, you figure the Catholics would go with the ghost stuff too, because it fits right into their, I don't want to say stories, because I'm not trying to offend anybody, because, you know, if that's your religion, that's what you believe in, that's fine. Also, I'm the type of person that I'm agnostic, so I don't believe in any particular religion, But if there was one religion I would hope would be true, it would be Catholicism. Because I love I guess we romanticize it too, the angels, demons fighting and like that behind the scenes. And, I guess, and one of my favorite movies is Constantine with Keanu Reeves. So if that's the world that we live in, I want to be a part of that, like.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't like to talk about religion either, because, that really gets on a whole topic, subjects I get email on, like you just blasted the Catholic Church. Well, it's not that I'm blasting Catholic Church. I've had some people on the show like Bishop Long, and we've talked after the show. And the most stories she told me after the show was so interesting. I wish you would have put on the episode,
Yeah.
Because I had a question like, for the Catholics mainly. I mean, because I always was told I had to convert to Catholic to marry my wife. So you have to be Catholic to be married in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
So I remember them saying that they didn't believe in this back then, being cremated. You had to be buried.
Yeah.
And I was asked, I just touched on it with him. He says, I don't see a problem with cremation. Only you have to make sure you're all there.
Yeah.
And it took me back to, I went to investigation in Erie, PA. They have an Erie cemetery. That's the name of the cemetery, Erie Cemetery. And I went there to check out the vampire crypt that's there, the myth on that vampire crypt.
Yeah.
And but my thing was, after going to the cemetery, was, say the cemetery was built in 1850 or found in 1850, but you come across a headstone that's 1825 or 1799.
Yeah.
So how did that get there if it wasn't put there till 1850? Well, then the groundskeeper, what I was talking to, says you'll find out that these spots that are before that 1850 are very active, because they would, like, say, you take your Sims family. You wanted to bring Uncle Charlie to to that cemetery before you're going to take him from someplace else.
Right.
Maybe you didn't bring the whole body. Maybe there's something you left behind. Well,
yeah,
that was his theory, and that led me to James Long, because, so there's some people I know personally that the family member was cremated. They all want to have like a little locket of this cremation.
Yeah.
So now you're separating those ashes.
Yeah.
And I know two of them right now. They're extremely have problems, haunted house, and they're where this locket is, or the box is.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that ties in anything, but I love hearing stories like that. I never thought about that.
Yeah, I had James Long's demonologist on, but great guy to talk to. He's also a paranormal investigator, and so we had a great conversation about demonology and things like that. Because he's a real deal demonologist through the Catholic Church, to where there's not many of them. What's his name?
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Rich Valdez, something like that. I hate that I'm butchering his name because he's a great guy, but it's something along those lines. You can go back and listen to the episode last year. But he was a great guy to talk to about religion and the difference between the demonic cases and paranormal. And he said, as a paranormal investigator, he's never come across anything demonic. But as a demonologist, he's dealt with several cases of exorcisms and things like that. But yeah, great guy to talk to, and especially the religious aspect of it, because of course he's a religious guy, and separating religion from the paranormal and being an investigator. And I grew up in the Bible Belt, so I still hear to this day from Baptist or Church of Christ that everything I do is demonic. And one of my best friends, she's really religious, and she's like, do whatever you want to do, but what you do is demonic. There's no such thing as ghost. And I found that interesting because the entire Bible is supernatural. So
like Bishop Long said, there's 58 exorcisms in the Bible.
Yeah.
Or you believe in the Holy Spirit, right?
Right.
You can't see him.
Yeah.
You can't touch him.
Yeah.
But you don't believe in the house could be haunted, or if it is, you have to get because it's the devil. It's you're gonna burn in hell.
Yeah.
I grew up with that. So that's what I'm talking about in the early days, in the early '60s, and you just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And they still they still don't today, even in churches.
Yeah.
Not the ones I've been to anyway. So,
yeah, I haven't been to any that they talk about it. I don't go to church on a regular basis either, and I don't think I've been set foot in a church since I was 18.
I kind of like the old Indian. I like the Indian. I think the indigenous people have it right on the spirituality, because there's a difference between spirituality and Christianity.
Yeah,
a huge difference. I like that Indian. He everything. Who's to say that our God isn't the same God for Muslims or
right,
Indians or we don't know. I mean,
right.
and another thing is, the Bible is written by all men, so
right. And it's been translated and changed and things put in and things taken out.
What the I don't know. I don't get into all that, but I do believe that I kind of stay off those subjects, try to anyway, but a lot of times you have to go to spirituality because of either you bring in like a Reiki or Reiki master or people like that to do that type of rituals,
Yeah.
And what are you moving? What are you moving the spirit onto? I think you're saying you're an agnostic or an atheist.
Yeah, I'm an agnostic.
Agnostic, okay. Yeah. So I think I said before that I had a guest on who's his whole team, paranormal team, were all agnostic and atheist. Because I brought up this subject. Do you believe you can move a spirit on?
Yeah.
And he said, "What are you moving on to?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, heaven or wherever, hell."
Right.
I mean, that's how I was brought up. So when he said, "You're not moving on anywhere. You're killing the spirit." So that was his thought.
Yeah.
Well, I've had more than others saying you're moving the spirit on to another realm. I like that.
Yeah.
So is that realm heaven? Is that realm earth? I don't know. So that's a kind of another touchy subject.
Yeah. I respect all religions. I just being agnostic, I believe in something beyond us because I've seen way too much shit, of course, in the paranormal. But also my own parents coming back and visiting in dreams and things. And like I said, my mom with perfume stuff, and she's not around all the time. She's not stuck here. There's no need to move her on anywhere. She's wherever she's supposed to be most of the time. And that's my belief. And I respect everybody's beliefs. I mean, you have your right to believe in whatever. I'm more of a scientific minded person. And I don't know who's right and who's wrong. That's my biggest thing. And I don't know if the Christians are right. I don't know if the Muslims are right, Buddhists. I just don't know. In my mind, it's a bit conceited if you are a certain religion to say we have the answers and everybody else is wrong. And when religion to me is kind of like the paranormal, none of us are experts because you can't be an expert in something you can't prove.
I think a lot of problem with exorcisms and because all these TV shows, they want to make these stories the devil. Yeah, and it's not. I know that 9 times out of 10, I go to a place, like you were saying before. I think I heard on your show when you go to a funeral and say, oh, he was such a nice man. No, he wasn't. He was an asshole.
Yeah.
He wasn't a nice guy at all. Yeah. And it's kind of like the spirit. You can have a pissed off spirit, an angry spirit, an ornery spirit. That doesn't make them demonic.
Yeah. Yeah, my motto is if you're an asshole in life, you're probably gonna be an asshole in death.
Right. That's it. That's it. Yeah. And I've used it a couple of times.
Yeah. Rich Valdez. I was right. I did not.
Rich Valdez. Right. I know it was. I know that the Valdez. I didn't know the first name.
Yeah. So I did. I just Googled it to make sure because, like I said, he's a great guy. He's a great guest to talk to. I need to have him back on, but we just kind of scratched the surface on what we were talking about with him. But I find the whole religion thing fascinating, and like I said, to each their own. It's to me, it's the same as like we were talking about earlier with ghost stories, like things that happen to you. You don't want somebody else to discredit, what's happened to you, and so I'm not going to discredit somebody's religion because that's.
Find out when you're doing like a talk or speaking a lecture, and somebody sticks around. They're the ones that was during that whole time you're talking. That's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah,
I don't believe in that. That's no. But at the end of I did one in I forget where it's at. Anyway, he came up and he said he stuck around the longest. I think there was answers he wanted me to try to clarify. I said, I can't clarify it, man. I'm not. I don't believe anybody's an expert. I says, but because what are you an expert in? I mean, the paranormal is the unexplained.
Right.
You can get close with some of the equipment. I said, but I just tell the story, and if you could take for what it's worth, I'm not out here to puff myself up or like I told on this other show the other night. I wish it would never happen to me. Really, I mean, I wish I never had that experience. I wish I could have been just a regular 12-year-old kid, went to school, hung out, and not because as soon as you talk one thing about the house to the wrong person, next thing you know, to the whole school, your label is crazy Cooley.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I don't really care, and they know I don't care. Yeah, I never get. Oh yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
Also, reading the book, it seems like you're grounded your entire teenage years.
Oh my God! I said, it made my mother look like she was a bad person. She wasn't. She had more times than not. She had my back.
Yeah, just about every chapter you get grounded for a week or two.
Mom, give me a break. I'm just coming off of being grounded.
Right.
Right. So I think the whole summer I was stuck in my room.
One of the stories you got grounded for, and you got your sister grounded for it too, is, and I found this fascinating because I've never heard a story like this. But you had laid down on the couch and took your glasses off, and you heard what sounded like a body falling down the stairs, like a person falling down the stairs, and it ended up knocking a picture off the wall and breaking your glasses.
Right. Imagine where you're sitting. Okay. And across the room, it would be the other side, the farthest part of your room is where that rumble came down the stairs.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're laying on this side, and I put my glasses up on top of the back of the couch. So, and I just laid my head like this, my head on my hand across my head. Then I heard like the rumble. I took my hand off, and at the same time, this picture came off the wall, hit my glasses on the back of the couch, and broke them right in half. I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to explain this to my mother?
Right.
That somebody felt in that tumbling you heard down the stairs was like a body tumbling down the steps. That was the exact sound of, if you could imagine a body falling down the stairs, that's what it sounded like. And I told my sister, well, I'm going to tell my mom that a ghost fell down the chair. She came in the back doors even as soon as I said that. So it's like, busted again. Yeah. Now I'm grounded again for trying to get my sister into lie for me.
Yeah. Your sister said something about y'all pillow fighting. Your mom was like, "No, you're lying. I know you're lying."
Yeah. And she brought that story up. She brought up. Did you tell the story about your glasses being broken as a picture? I said, I forgot about that one. There were so many things that happened. It was so constant.
Yeah.
So I probably, some things just took forever to come back to me. Than like the part where we were shot at in the garage.
I was going to ask you about that story too.
Really, that one of all those stories in the book, that one affected me the most because you imagine somebody's trying to shoot you with a shotgun, they're going to kill you.
Yeah, right? This is a real person trying to kill you.
And I'm getting history on this. I'm now going to the library and getting the newspaper article from that house from that weekend.
Yeah.
So I want that article because that really did happen. And so my thinking is, if somebody blows out your door, your garage with a shotgun, and then they do a second shot, it blows out the glass windows. I mean, there's a big hole in that garage door, right?
Right.
My next thought was, he's going to come in and kill us.
Yeah.
And luckily, the neighbor next door, she's the one that yelled out, "The police are on the way." He got in his car and took off. Well, that next morning when we go down in the basement or into the garage, can you imagine, like, if you're looking behind yourself, from the one corner of your wall to the other corner of the wall is all peppered with buckshot. Yeah. So how is it that you didn't get shot?
Right.
Because you're standing right in front of all of that. You're right behind that garage door, and not me or I think so Mike was in the garage and Alex. So it's me, Mike, and Alex. So it's the three of us. Alex was standing right in front of me because he's between me and that door. And right before that shotgun blast went off, we all three seen like a shadow figure move across. Now, could that have been his shadow when the car went down the street? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do know that shadow figure went across us, and when he fired them 2 shots, we weren't hit with one pellet.
Yeah.
So, and that's why I say I'm my guardian. So I'm thinking I have some type of guardian angel, because all through this book, I mean, things should have happened where I could have gotten hurt or killed.
Yeah.
Uh,
and then the one story where you're going to go with your uncle to Woodstock, to the famous Woodstock concert.
yeah, we never got a talent for that one. That one was that was wild. Yeah,
Yeah,
when all
yeah,
the yeah that was a wild one. When all
and
four tires blew. Yeah,
yeah, and people had to read that, but yeah, all four tires blew at once on the van, and you'll just have to read the book to get the rest of that story. But
yeah, right. I
one
wouldn't
of
give them
the
all away. You know. Yeah.
yeah, but what I found fascinating too is I like the way that you wrote it, because I'm the type of person that I think the journey is just as important as the destination. So the way that you tell the stories leading up in each chapter to the ghost part that happened, I think is just as important to understand why the ghost part may have happened. You know what I'm saying? So especially with like the van story, like we're talking about, you have to know the story to know why what happened, and like even just conversations that led to paranormal things happening, and telling that backstory. So I found those stories fascinating as well, along with the paranormal. Like it's because like you were talking about, you know you did some crazy stuff as a teenager, and
Right. You know, it's like I wasn't a perfect kid. I mean, we did some rough shit. I mean, you know, I think what boy doesn't you go back and you smoking your cherry cigars, and we had the Boone's Farm back then, you know, so
yeah,
uh so we were always getting in some type of trouble. I think I can understand my mom wanting to put me in a boys' home, you know,
yeah,
but you know, I wasn't the the perfect kid, you know, but I tell you what, you know, so I think that might have made it a little even harder to believe me because I lied myself out of so many different situations I got in trouble with.
yeah,
So I could understand some of the times she did ground me. You know, I was like, well, I deserve that. You know,
yeah,
I even thought, even I think the part where she was looking to put me away for after that one incident, I'm thinking I wasn't even fighting. I was like, I deserve to go. I
yeah,
got some type of problem that I'm getting in too much trouble. You know, and uh, so I can understand her. I don't. After reading the book, I'm like, man, I kind of like put her out to be like the bad. I didn't mean to do that, you know. Uh, she wasn't. She was a perfect. I mean, she was a beautiful, beautiful woman.
I didn't get that sense at all. She was a concerned
Okay, good.
parent. No, I think she was a concerned parent and didn't want you
hmm
to get in trouble. You know, so later on in life, did she believe you and your sister?
No, she never. She denied it. You know, the whole time. I thought the time when the bat flew out of the attic and got into her hair.
Yeah,
We heard the rumbling up in the attic. You know, and it was like a kid running across the floor. I mean, it's
yeah,
not a bat. It's like it's somebody running across that attic. If you're sitting in your house, you got an attic, you
yeah,
know when somebody's walking across that floor.
yeah,
And we heard that. I heard that. My sister heard that. And my mom and dad heard that as they're late because they're at the attic door is right above their bed in their bedroom. So as we ran out into the hallway, figuring, what the hell is this shit, you know? And my dad says, hey, "Give me a flashlight. I'm going to go get up in the attic," you know. So he did, and as soon as he opened that latch, I mean, this bat, you can imagine, like, it looked like a huge hawk. It's so big.
yeah.
It flew out of the attic. It was the biggest bat I've ever seen. And it went straight to my mother's hair. And after my dad killed the bat.
Yeah.
So they're all laughing. My mom wasn't laughing. She's still screaming.
Right.
My dad says, you know, there's your ghost.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, whatever, you know. So he ran downstairs. We all came downstairs and calmed my mom down, and he went back up to with the box he's going to put this bat into, and the bat's gone.
Wow.
So where did the bat go? Because he went back into
Right.
the attic and it wasn't there. We all of us checked every nook and cranny of that house up there. We couldn't find it. And the big as that bat was, you'd see it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't like it could hide somewhere.
Yeah. Did he ever believe you?
I think he did. I think he did, but he would never say he did because he'd always side with my mom.
Yeah.
No matter what if she said something, then it happened. If
Yeah.
he disagreed with her, he would still agree with her because he was he was. I mean, it's like man, you got to speak up, man. Speak for yourself, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but no, he would never go against what she said, you know. So she says, yeah, there's nothing up there. Then there's nothing up there,
Yeah.
you know. So I think that time there, I think he knew there was something up there I think the time when he was knocked down on the landing by the basement, I think he knew something knocked him down.
Yeah.
But he would never say he got up saying, "Oh, I got a muscle spasm."
Yeah.
I think it's in the book, muscle spasm.
Yeah.
My ass,
Yeah. That's what he says. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then his own brother, this thing is trying to kill his own brother.
Oh, I'll tell you what, that was, and I use his real name, Nicky. Nicky was a little roughneck, man. He was a guy. If you got into a bar fight, yes, he's the one you want to take with you.
Yeah.
So he was, and I think because he had so much activity against him in that house because he was so rough, mean.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say mean. He was rowdy. He was foul mouth, and how long at the time. So he was, and his week staying with us during like 3 months.
Yeah.
So the time he was there, he got blasted, man. I tell you, shit happened to him that never happened to us.
Yeah.
I mean, and even my other uncle too, so they just, I couldn't understand that, that's why I didn't understand, like you're talking about Christianity, because my girlfriend at the time, she was over the house almost every day because she's also my sister's best friend. So she's constantly at the house. Every time she's there, and if there was activity before she got there, it just completely stopped.
Yeah.
So every time she was in the house, there was nothing that happened. Every time my best friend Joseph was in the house, it never happened. So yeah, there was people with my mother, it never happened.
Yeah.
I think my grandmother, because I think she was a either an empath or because she had all her remedies that are passed down. She believed in all the superstitions, and she believed my stories.
Yeah.
And she had her own story. So I'm thinking, it never happened while she was in the house. But yeah, my two uncles, like you're talking about, Nicky, when he was in the house, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was just bad. I could never understand. Like, a lot of people say, well, that ghost or spirit will pick and choose who they want to connect with. I think I connected the best. I called her Alice in the book.
Yeah.
I had to name her something, so I named her Alice. And here's the thing, man. My wife and I were doing some research at this house, going back on a history. I think I got back to 1924, and the lady in the house's name is Alice.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that blew that sent chills on my spine while we were. I had already wrote that, so I'm looking, and this girl's listening, and my wife says, "Oh my God!" Oh, actually, she came across it. Look at this lady's name is Alice. I says, "Wow." So I want to do some more research on the people now. Now they got the house and the people that lived there chronologically.
Yeah.
I want to go back on their history, because I want to find out if there was a little girl that actually did die in that house.
Yeah. Have you talked to anybody else that lives in the house?
I do. Well, that'll be in the next book because it'll pick up in 1985. This one stopped at 1971.
Yeah.
It'll pick up in 85 because the friends of two sets of friends of mine that lived in the house was extremely haunted.
Okay.
It was awesome. Evil. It was like evil type of shit.
Yeah.
That would then happen with us. I mean, to the Uncle Nicky and other. Yeah. Okay. But to me, no.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting to have that continued history where you're hearing from other people. Because for one, it's nice to have the validation for yourself that I wasn't fucking crazy when I lived in this house. Like, this shit really did happen to me.
Oh yeah, because even when the house burnt down in 2005, I heard two different stories. I still can't get that story straight. Even going on the city hall into the title, that office land office in town on the deeds and everything. I can't get, did this person die in the house in 2005? Now I heard about that time when it burnt that a man died in the house.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to still have. Now I got somebody that's sticking with me on this in City Hall that's helping me now, trying to investigate. Now he's curious.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I don't know about in your town. If a house burns down, who do you go to for the records? Yeah. So who do I go to? It's like the only thing I have right now is a library, for the books, and try to go through the fish of the people. And I never did put the address of the house in that book, Yeah. So I wanted to leave that out because I knew before on another episode I did on my Ghost in the Valley documentary I made back in the 90s, based on true stories out of Ohio and Pennsylvania. this didn't make my documentary because a person moved in a house like you did right now. Your house is haunted. You find out the house is haunted. Well, it turned out that it was violent. He wants his money back. He already paid his year's deposit, and the guy wasn't giving his money back, so he took him to court. I was going to do the documentary on his story, and there was a joke going on between the judge and the lawyers that if the judge was staying in that house for one overnight, he would give the money back,
Yeah.
But, or no, he wouldn't have to give the money back. But if he had to leave early, then the landlord had to give the money back. Well, the judge only stayed like half hour in the house. I was told by the judge not to put that in the book, not to put that in my movie. So I didn't, So I was just curious, on my house.
Yeah.
I do know the two couples, two different families. My sister worked, she had a job where she had clients, and one client came in, and this was like 30 years after the fact. And he told her, oh no, she's looking at the address where he lived at. She says, oh my God, you live in the house we grew up in. The haunted house. She didn't say haunted house. She is the house we lived in. He asked her, was that house haunted when you lived there?
Yeah.
And she said, oh yeah. He said, no, I mean really viciously evil. She says, no, it wasn't like that. He said, oh, it's very bad. But then again, like I'm saying, is it your energy? If you're say a roughneck, or you're a bad seed anyway in your family, are you attracting that? Are you pulling that out? I don't see it. And that's what I'm thinking, but my friend that came over that spent the night, that had to leave early and never came back, he was a Christian, so he never, and his mother was.
Yeah.
My girlfriend was. But so I'm thinking, oh, that's not gonna mess with the Christians. Well, it messed with my friend who's a guy Christian, and didn't mess with the girlfriend who's a female Christian.
Yeah.
So I threw that theory out the window.
Yeah.
So and I was told, well, it just picks and chooses who they want to, which spirit connects with who.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's definitely a fascinating book. Everybody needs to go check it out for sure. I enjoyed it. Go pick up your copy today. Is there anywhere that they can order it where I know people like to get autographed copies?
Right now I'm working on that. I'm trying to put up a link to my website to where you can go there and pay me, and I would it'd be like cover the shipping and handling and an autographed copy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll ship it to you. In the continental U.S. I just had to talk to my friend of mine who just did that, and she didn't put in the continental USA, right?
Yeah.
She's asking $20 for her book, that covered shipping, everything. She didn't put that. Well, the guy that ordered it, she didn't put continental. He ordered it from, like, I think Australia or New Zealand or somewhere. Her shipping was like $75.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's she couldn't get out of that. So I'm thinking, no, it's got to be continental,
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm working on that right now. I'm like to pretty soon have that, because I have a lot of people that contact me. Can I get an autographed copy?
And your website's authoralcooley.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also on all the social medias. And everybody needs to go check out your podcast, Ghost in the Valley. It was definitely an excellent show. I love the show. Listen to it. Like I said, when I get a chance to listen to anything. But it's one of my favorite go-to podcasts for the paranormal. And everybody go check out Spencer's Ghost, The Guardian. You can get it on Kindle and through Amazon, a physical copy. But I'd wait until Al gets it up on the website so you can actually get an autographed copy. Also, the great thing is, if you order it straight from the author, the money's all going to you. And it's not going to, 40% or whatever shit it is to Amazon.
Amazon kills you, man. It's like,
it's a necessary evil, but Jeff Bezos is fucking rich enough. So,
right.
Yeah, he's the richest man in the world, or something, or second to Elon Musk or something. So, but everybody go check out the book. Grab yourself a copy. And thanks for coming on today, Al. I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Eric.
All right, everybody. Y'all stay safe out there. We'll see you next time. Have a good day. Thank you for listening to The Unseen Paranormal. Join me next Wednesday with a brand new guest. And please rate, review, share, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. This helps more people discover the show. You can connect with me over on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or join us in the Unseen Paranormal Lounge group on Facebook. Until next time, remember, some of the scariest things are unseen.
You have come to the end of the line. Whoa. I can feel you as you pass the other side.